The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, tributes continue to pour in for former Cabinet Minister Vaughn Miller. Tonight, one of his ZNS colleagues joined me. Also tonight, big thanks and prayers for being spared the full brunt of Tropical Storm Imelda, although it left a significant amount of flooding in its trail. And later tonight, Prime Minister Davis just back from the United Nations telling world leaders the Bahamas will not be a host to even more Haitians coming out of Haiti. We talk about that tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, tonight the nation mourns the sudden passing of Minister of Environment and Natural Resources and Member of Parliament Vaughn Miller, whose faith was his compass and whose service his legacy. Vaughn was more than a politician. He was a man of conviction, one guided by prayer, grounded in hope, and devoted to the people he served. For others, Vaughn was a husband, a proud father, a son, a brother, and a cousin. For me, he was more than a cousin. He was a friend. At Windermere High School in Eleuthera, his graduating class says he was always ready and willing to assist.
We have suffered a major blow in the loss of Minister Vaughn Miller. He was indeed a great Eleutherans, a great alumnus of Windermere High School. And so I take this time to extend condolences, sincere sympathy to his family, loved ones, our Windermere High School family, in the loss of Minister Vaughn Miller. Minister Vaughn Miller loved Eleuthera. He loved helping people. And I'm reminded that whenever we reach out to him and saying, Vaughn, listen, man, we just need some help. Help us with Windermere. There's certain things we need to get done. And he was always willing to help. Even if we had to say, listen, we need you here in Eleuthera for a live remote. We need to do some things on behalf of Windermere High School. He was present. And he made it a priority to be here to support Windermere High School. He was actively involved in basketball, an amazing basketball player, amazing pitcher, involved in softball, involved in Christian living. He was so charismatic. And when any of us, as Windermereans, whenever we saw Vaughn or talked to him, his was like, you know, we got to do something for Eleuthera. We got to make sure Windermere High School remains open. That's who he was. And so it is with a great deal of sadness that we extend condolences, like I mentioned, to his family, his wife, his son, his mother, Miss Mary, Miss Christina, his aunts, Miss Perry, his sister Geneva, and the entire family. We are standing with you. One thing I knew about Vaughn Miller, my friend, he believed in his convictions and he stood on his convictions. He believed that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. He believed that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach. And so often we talked about how we can advance this nation by working together, not by working separately. And so we have lost indeed a great Eleutherans, Minister Vaughn Miller. Windermere High School has lost a great Windermerian. And it's so sad that just this year we have lost 5 Windermerians. And so we're grateful for his life. We're thankful for his impact. And we pray blessings for his family and that God will continue to strengthen his family, our Windermere family, and our nation. Thank you, Minister Vaughn Miller, for your vast and valuable contributions. Yes, to Eleuthera, to Windermere, to our nation. May his soul forever rest in peace.
Well, tonight, Vaughn's colleague at ZNS of many years, Debbie Bartlett, joins me, as well as a very good friend of Vaughn, Garth Rosborough, who he called just somebody that he got to know over the years and developed a very fond relationship with. I want to welcome both of you to Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. It's good to have you both here, and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
What a privilege it is to be here tonight in the presence of you two beautiful ladies. A bit jealous tonight, Shanique. I saw she got a kiss tonight. Ain't nobody come to kiss me, but hello to Dundee, Florida, Michigan, and Atlanta. They send greetings to you tonight. So I guess they're kissing you too, Shanique. Yes, Where is my kiss?
Yeah, don't worry. That's what they're doing through the screen. And I join you in saying hello to everyone watching, in whether it's Florida, whether it's Michigan, and Atlanta, wherever you're watching, of course, around the Bahamas. Come on in, pull up a chair, and thank you all so much for tuning in. And again, I thank you both for being here. Debbie, you know, the people at ZNS, particularly of a certain era, feel as though they grew up together, like they just came of age together. You were among those people at that time, and also you spent a considerable amount of years with Vaughn.
Absolutely. You know, first of all, let me just extend my condolences to you, Shanique. You know, sometimes you think about Miller, and I didn't put it together right away that Miller and Miller, yes, they're related. But I want to extend also condolences to his beautiful wife, his 5-year-old son, and to the entire family of Vaughn Miller. And if I were to say something as I really reflected on Vaughn's life, was that his inspiration is not only for today. He inspired so many people around the country. He takes on a different persona when he was on the air. Mm-hmm. His persona on the air was different than off the air. He was really animated. He was bold and tenacious. And off the air, he was very soft-spoken. But the characteristics remained the same. If we were to look at some of what may have been overlooked, and I believe the future will really appreciate it, there was 1240, the secular station at the time, and there was some talk about 1240 becoming a Christian nation. Well, to Vaughn Miller, it was taking too long. So you know what Vaughn Miller did? He started playing gospel music during a shift on a secular station. And he persisted until the Bahamas Christian Council supported him. And then we around 1998, we recall that there was a cruise ship that came with the gay tourism, and there was Save the Bahamas with Pastor Moxie, and Vaughn was right up front, very loud, very bold, loud not in being obnoxious, but loud in the message. Whatever he believed in, he didn't look to the left or the right. He was bold and courageous. And it is okay if you disagree with him, but you're going to know what he thinks, and he would stand for what he believes. And he was taken off the air. And again, I believe it was Bishop Ellis who helped him get back, but he knew that he was going across the line in terms of what the code of conduct is supposed to be on the air. He didn't care. He just believed that he had a position. He stood for that position. He stuck with his position, and so he influenced people to follow his lead, and what he always termed. And as I'm thinking now, I don't know if you all remember that there was a pastor that came into town, and he felt that they were fleecing the Bahamian people. Listen here, he went ballistic on them. And so anytime he saw and felt that the Bahamian people were being placed at a disadvantage, he stood with his courage. And I think he was like what what the Lord told Joshua to be bold and courageous.
Garth, you step in because, of course, your memories have a different start and just a different sort of tone. Debbie speaks of ZNS and those days when before Vaughn perhaps even thought of politics, but you knew him when?
Well, we all are familiar with the voice of inspiration. Nobody could start the nation's morning like Vaughn Miller. We got to give him that credit. We all fell in love with him as a minister, as a man of God. But surprisingly, I did meet him in 2011, thereabout, as we sat on Steph Street many a night. And I'd say up until this particular time, Miss Debbie Bartlett, Miss Shanique Miller, I have never ever seen Vaughn Miller irate. I've never seen him raise his voice. He's always had that cool, mesmerizing, it's going to be okay type of talk, except for when he's on that radio and giving us a good morning. And so that Vaughn Miller, that spirit of meekness, we will definitely miss that. He was always a gentleman. You may not have agreed with everything in terms of his political life. There's some question marks that we all may have, but this we do know. He was always true to himself, and he was always encouraging to all mankind.
Yes, now, Debbie, of course, we know when he became a politician and a minister and speaking now, he took on many causes, particularly as it related to or relates to the environment and keeping us. I know I spoke with someone, Garth, I don't know if it was you today, who said, talking about his constituency and the fact that he paid strict attention to his constituency and to ensure that the constituency was always basically the doors of the constituency swept, meaning clean. But Debbie, y'all were working on something similar, but of a more national tone, right?
Yes. I serve now as the consultant to Social Services Information and Broadcasting, and I got another glimpse and another side of the compassion and the caring that Vaughn has and had. Lorraine Duvalier, who's one of the other consultants at Social Services, was very concerned about some dilapidated buildings where we had people just throwing garbage and some of the homeless hanging out in there. It's very unhealthy, and trying to move people into better environments. And when I called Minister Vaughn, he said, man, let's just do it. Because his responsibility is to help move these abandoned buildings. He said, I'll get on to Ministry of Works right away so that we can get all the clearances there. Be sure that you have my full support. And as a matter of fact, one of your corresponding guests and contributors here, Leslie Miller, would have been during the time of the Honorable Obadiah Wilscombe. They would come up and be talking about how we are going to make it easier and better, how we're going to clean up the lives and the environments for people, particularly in the inner city. And so you see this constant thread where he was very meticulous about the environment, wanting to restore an environment of paradise. He also wanted people to become empowered. And one of the things that I think we should also remember, that it was consistent when he was in F&M and when he moved over to the PLP. There are differences, and we all fall short, and there are things that we can say in anybody's life that we could do better. But there are some consistent threads in the Honorable Minister's life, and that is, he was, I believe, if not the first, among the first to go into Parliament and talk about making wealth common for the Commonwealth of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. So you see this consistent thread of really championing the cause. Now, in his later years, I believe he became more reserved than when he first started. Mm-hmm. But I believe sometimes there is some reality checks in life that nothing is ever as easy as it looks. And we can say that we want it now, and it doesn't happen now. But Shanique, I am comforted about the value of the work that he has left, that even now, I'm not sure that we would fully appreciate the work the body of work that he has done, both in broadcasting and in Parliament, but I believe that the future will arrive. And when we look at the voice of influence that he gave to championing the cause for more participation for Bahamians in natural resources, when we look at the spiritual positions that he took, and I don't know how he did all these things, because in all of that, in politics, he still had his church. Brett Archer had set up, and who was a confidant and worked with him through all of his broadcast political lives. Each Sunday,
a prayer.
Yes, he's praying.
A Zoom prayer.
Yes, I went on the prayer network several times. Yes, but you know, that is who he is. I don't know how he traveled often to see his family. He would come back on Sunday, he does his prayer network, and he's still evangelizing. Can you come on the prayer network? He's looking to help people wherever they can. And so when we look at the holistic contribution that he has made to the Bahamas, we have a lot to be grateful for. And let's honor him. I want to say that when Pastor Miles passed, and I served as the chair of the secretariat with the eight funerals and homegoing services. And even then, as great as Pastor Miles is, because he's still living through his work and was, there were people who chose to find the negatives. And you know, you can always find the negatives. And I like what the Prime Minister said in his address tonight after coming from the UN, is that this is a time to honor. And I said to some of my media colleagues, let's take this time and honor a patriot.
Yep, absolutely. Garth, I know that you really delved into that as well, that aspect of Bahamian life and Bahamians who figure that they just must tear someone down. They just must, I mean, for no reason, really. And yeah, but listen, we have a lot more to get to tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. We're not going to just keep it there. I will lift it. I will certainly lift the mood here, and because we have a lot more to talk about. But don't go anywhere. It's good to have you tuned in. Stay exactly where you are. We're back right after this.
Ever feel like you're missing your own life because you're constantly running off to the bathroom? Do bladder leaks or pelvic discomfort have you up at night and affect your confidence in everyday life? Those days are over. At Frequency Vitality Center, we offer a solution. Completely painless, fully clothed with no downtime. Perfect for men and women of any age, we help strengthen the pelvic floor muscles while you sit comfortably, improving bladder control, decreasing night waking, and much more. Strengthen your foundation and restore your confidence.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
You work hard to provide for and protect the ones you love. However, life can present unexpected challenges. Who you call in times of need matters. Insurance Management is a Bahamian-owned company that has been serving our community for over 40 years, offering a wide range of coverage for all of your personal, professional, and commercial needs. When life happens, rest easy knowing that our skilled and experienced agents are there for you in your time of need, so that you can get back to what matters most. Insurance Management. Nobody does it better.
Crack the code and win $1 million. Crack the code and win $1 million.
7 numbers, $1 million. Every 3 days, a number is revealed. Act fast. Your million is waiting.
Crack that code, win $1 million clear.
Crack the code before the last lock clicks shut. Get ready to join the winner's circle only at islandluck.com.
Crack the code and win $1 million.
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. 1 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you tuned in this evening. We're going to just continue moving right along. Now, of course, I want to give an opportunity. Leslie Miller, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. Of course, we started the show with Debbie Bartlett and Garth Roseborough, but I know that you have been quite vocal about your cousin. In fact, you are just from Golden Isles, What is the mood there?
Dave and I spent about 2 hours in Golden Isles till about 7:15 this evening. People are very distraught, especially women who would have known my good friend and brother and the type of human being he was. You know, Vaughn was a peculiar person. As I said a few nights ago, the first time I went with him, this guy met us and started cursing him, really using some bad words, what you bring this fella for. And he just looked at him and kept looking, and the guy kept cursing. And Vaughn say, I'm sorry for you feeling this way, and I'll do better. Went to the next block, another fella blasting out, didn't get what he wanted. He wanted Vaughn to give him a contract, but instead Vaughn gave the contract to the neighbor next door who wasn't working. The fella said, I don't care if they're working or not. I want my own contract. I don't care who you help. I want you to help me. He apologized. He was just a person. He never got upset. He just did, and the guy blasted him, and I blasted the guy back. The guy uses some heavy words, and I used it heavy words. I say, Vaughn, what you can do? He said, you all right, you do it.
You handle that.
He's just a superhuman being. But what really hurt me is the fact that a few weeks ago, Vaughn called me and said, Leslie, we got to get together. So he just came back from Miami. He said, I got to meet you to the shop. I said, man, I'm going home just around about 8 o'clock. He said, no, stay there till I come. And he said his son had just turned 5 years old. And his son didn't know him too good anymore. He said, I have to leave politics. So I got to go take care of my son and my wife. I said, what you want to do? He said, I got to go. He said, that's it for me. It's my last time. I said, okay, what you want me to do? He said, you go to the Prime Minister and sort it out for me. So I said, I'll do it tomorrow. I went, saw the PM, and he had a long talk, and Vaughn and I went down there and we worked things out then. He was prepared to move on. He just wanted to be with his family and his son. And what got me was the love he had for his son, and his wife, and his brother, and his family, and Bahamians at large. He was a true Christian. I mean, as hard as we work on the campaign trail for the last several months, going door to door, he will still find time to have his prayer meetings on Thursday.
Sundays.
On Sunday, next Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that? His whole life was around the people, his work for the Commonwealth of Bahamas, and his God, and his wife, and his precious son, who just came to the Bahamas this afternoon. That's what I admire so much about him. And it pained me today that one or two persons speak so ill of him. One in particular, I don't want to call the name because it's not weighted, that they could even denigrate you even in debt. You know, it showed me where this country have sunk, the level we have sunk to as a people. That even in debt, they bastardize you. You know, you're nothing to them. The contribution you made. Remember, this man was in the FNM. He went against the VAT increase. He fell out with them. They ostracized him. He went with the PLP. He won again, back to back. In fact, he's the only MP in the history of that area that won back to back. People don't understand that. That was never PLP area. But he won as a PLP and he won as after that. He won back to back. Only the goodness in his heart kept him going. And I feel so sorry for his precious wife and son. It bothered me that I trust that Bahamians could please show, their little empathy, little condolence. I'm so happy with the amount of condolences that came out on his behalf. As you go on your phone, hundreds of people expressing their sorrow, except for one. That, I guess they was sent here by the devil, that's all I can say. Maybe she got a contract with Satan,
Yeah, but he was
that you would denigrate a human being, especially
to be a father.
A loving person and a father.
Yeah, the last time we had lunch, he was proudly recalling a moment with his son. And, something we did pretty often to talk about anything. But that one, he a part of the conversation was him talking about his son.
The irony was,
very happy about that.
He was leaving politics for his family. He was leaving. And now he is in here. And his wife and his son is here to take care of each other now. That's the real irony. That he spent his whole life.
Well, I don't know if we have this video, Justin, just to show Vaughn last week, also stepping in the political realm and assisting his colleagues, both Eleuthera men. Sylvanus Petty, who last week announced that he will be staying put, yes. And so Vaughn was there. And then the following morning went and looked at some issues in, I think it was a Harbor Island and the garbage dump and disposal there. He went and also looked at that, but he led them in song. And then he gave a little sort of sermonette in Harbor Island last Thursday evening. Justin, I hope we could have that video just to play us as we speak, or maybe to hear some sound from it.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Good night, Eleuthera. Good night. PLP. All the way. One more. You got to say it again. You can do it. Give him respect. Give him respect is due to the one who is presiding tonight. Yes. To the member of Parliament. My Parliament, Captain Cully, and to all of the persons here, all of you in your respective places. It's an honor for me to be here. I don't have to be invited to come here. I was born here. Yeah. So, as you all may or may not know, come next election, Vaughn middle name will not be in the hat. So Vaughn middle will be North Eleuthera, Vaughn middle will be South Eleuthera, Vaughn middle will be in North Andros, Vaughn middle will be in Bain and Grandstown, Vaughn middle will be here, there, Because we want to make certain that the Progressive Liberal Party is re-elected to remain the governing party of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
And that was a part of what he had to say to that audience last Thursday. In fact, it was again where Sylvanus Petty, Member of Parliament for North Eleuthera, there was a Clay Sweeting as well there, North Andros MP there, a number of MPs were there, and they all, including Vaughn, went there to support, as he would normally do for both people of Eleuthera, go and support them and assist them with whatever they were doing. And so there you have it. Of course, Margaret Elizabeth, hello to you. She said, listen, don't forget his mother. That's right. His mother mother in Eleuthera, Miss Mary. Yes, absolutely. His mother this evening. And so, you know.
But you know what a lot of people don't understand? And it happened to me late when I got to know him real good. While he was in Chicago playing basketball in college, he was a Muslim. Mm-hmm. And that's where he got that tenacity from. Yeah. And that ability to stand firm on his principles. Mm-hmm. You will never get him to move from his principles. Mm-hmm. And I say, I wonder why you could take the punishment that these guys mete out to you. You know, the guy cursing you just looking at him. You finish? Fellow say, I finished, I'm tired now. I'm sorry, sir. I wouldn't do it again. I could do better. He did better. All those people who argued against him voted for him. That was the beauty of it. Because he just apologized and he did better. Mm-hmm. You know? And that was the wonderful thing about him. Just a wonderful human. But I'm just happy to know tonight that all of us could sleep assured that he's with his God and his Maker. I know where he is. We got to wonder where we're going, especially the one who said those bad things about him. I know where he is. You know, and all of those persons who wrote those beautiful hymns this morning concerning him and the love that they express, the one person really doesn't matter. Because he was loved by Bahamians, showed the land and bread of this country. And I'm happy to be able that I could call him friend. And he'd be in my heart forever. And in the heart of Bahamians who have goodwill for other Bahamians.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let's shift gears now. Get this, Bahamians, you all who are watching, you certainly want to listen up and hear this one. Prime Minister Davis arrived from the United Nations, I think it could have been yesterday or this morning, but he just wrapped up a short while ago a news conference at the Disaster Risk Management Authority headquarters. Now, before we get to the storm coverage, which we're going to get to in a moment, let's just have a look at some of what the Prime Minister had to say. He talked about, he talked about and featured prominently the topic of Haiti and his stance at the United Nations just last week that the Bahamas will not be able to open its doors to any additional Haitians coming out of Haiti. Of course, you know, the U.S. has been trying to stress that for the Bahamas to say, listen, can you accommodate these people? They're trying to send them out, but they are saying, listen, can you, Bahamas, help and make this happen, as well as even have them process their visas and whatnot here in the Bahamas? Well, Prime Minister Davis says he stressed to the United Nations and all the world leaders there that his priority is to keep the Bahamas for Bahamians.
God bless you.
Leslie and Garth, your thoughts on how, and this is not the first time, remember when he went to the Summit of the Americas a few years ago, he had similar sentiments expressed there, but your thoughts on what the Bahamas, the Prime Minister said in 2025 at the United Nations meeting?
Well, I was taking an early morning drive today, you know, after the storm on Calvin Road, heading towards Faith Avenue. I looked to my right, and I became extremely perplexed. It doesn't normally happen to me that I become this way, but the amount of people that I saw going to work on a holiday from the South, that kind of alarmed me somewhat. I felt as if what the other people are feeling in this country as an invasion may actually be taking place. And now we're speaking about closing a door that we cannot take additional Haitians. I dare say we need to close the windows as well, because there are too many windows in this house. There's too many opportunities for people to come into our country and to take the land papers from the people that should be occupying this house. We're not racist in any which way or fashion. We're not anti-Haitian. What we are is we want to become a more disciplined and orderly people. And as Mr. Leslie Miller, it's good to see you again. I've been away for a while, but you called me while I was away, and I appreciate it. Leslie Miller, you made mention of Vaughn Miller being a former Muslim worshiper, someone that wasn't easily rocked or swayed.
Yes.
maybe as a nation we need to take a look at this particular religion as to the components of this religion to see how can we adopt some of this discipline to where we can deal with the issues of this country. I do believe in God. I do have a Christian background, but definitely we are lacking in this regard. We need to find where can we find the infrastructural strengths in terms of how we need to be disciplined and organized in this country to prevent the windows and doors from allowing those in who should not be in this country.
Because I'll tell you, Garth and Leslie, we talked about this last week, there are now several Caribbean nations who have said no, and I mean no way, exclamation mark.
And so even now, Mr. Leslie, I know you're also a proponent of this. We as a Bahamian people, I'm concerned about wages in this country. I'm concerned with the cost of living, but we're allowing these people to come in to perform the duties that we're not prepared to do because we're not going to slave for anybody. But if we can just take the time to sacrifice and to begin to slave to save our nation, then these people coming in would not have anywhere to put their roots. We have to treat this as an act of war if we're going to save ourselves from this invasion. And so, Bahamian people, my prayers are with you. My prayers are with the Prime Minister of this country. My prayers are with those in opposition. But I'm saying to you once again, you cannot take this lightly. The Prime Minister makes a bold stand internationally. He makes a bold stand now nationally, is what we're looking for. And I'm hoping that we can begin to turn this around.
Like yourself, I'm very grateful for the stand that the Prime Minister took today. And he's been taking for some time now, the last 3 years. Like yourself, most people are complaining. I had a call yesterday from some ladies at the Mall and Marathon that works for Patelco. And they said they want me to come down there tomorrow to see the amount of persons that's going there, foreign people, getting voters card. And they said they took their passport with them to work, a couple of them on Friday. And they asked the lady, well, how come we just give this man a voters card? And you didn't ask him anything. So because he got a passport. Say, well, ask him to speak English. And a couple of them couldn't speak English. So they say, how the hell could you give him a voter's card? And he don't speak proper English. Say, well, he has a passport. And they were very, very concerned. I think all of us should be concerned and hope to God that people are not giving out our voter's cards because you have a passport, whether you are really naturalized for those period of time that you have been in the newspaper, that the government has given you that permission, because many of our passports, people are claiming, are made elsewhere and given to people. And I believe that in some respects. Because the amount of people that's complaining about it, there has to be some truth to it. This is the serious problem. Our country, God only gave us a small country called the Bahamas. And we got to preserve and keep it for our people. Yet unborn. You know, what are we going to do for the next 100 years? And you know, we act as if 100 years is a long time, but it's not. 50 years isn't a long time. You know, I mean, I can remember things that happened 50 years ago. Time is running out on us.
So you can remember something happened 50 years ago?
Yes, I can.
Come on, Leslie. Now, Leslie, go to the head of the class.
Madam, 50 years ago. You know how old I was?
How old were you?
I'm 77.
So you were 27. Okay, fine.
Yes.
But I mean, at the age of, you could say at 27, I did this. If you're good, Leslie. That's all I'm saying. You're good.
Yes.
But let's move on. We have to move on, Leslie.
We have to save our country.
We have to move on, and it's not a, Leslie. Leslie.
All of us got to get together.
Thanks, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks. I mean, you obviously come here tonight to figure it's me. I'm the host. Thanks very much. Let's go, Leslie. Let's move forward. By the way, I want to say this. Hello to you, another colleague of Vaughn's watching, Carlton Smith. Hello to you. Thank you so much. And he did mention, back to the Muslim faith, Leslie, that Malcolm X, and yes, Vaughn said that he was hugely influenced by Malcolm X, and that sort of doggedness, you know.
He got this tenacity.
Yes, Malcolm, absolutely. You know? Listen, so here's a tidbit for you as we go into the storm coverage. Do you know how much inches of rain fell here in New Providence over the last, say, just over a day? 6.88 inches, roughly 7 inches of rain.
In Abago?
In Nassau, just Nassau. No wonder some areas look like the ocean. Tonight, of course, there's frustration and fatigue, back now to Abaco, as residents say they express their dissatisfaction with the island's infrastructure in the wake of Tropical Storm Imelda. Widespread flooding has left several communities flooded, reigniting concerns about disaster response and recovery in the storm-worry island. Here's Linton Ritchie Jr.
But it clog up. Nobody come here and clean it up. This water would have been already deteriorated.
Abaconians irate following the extensive rainfall from Sunday night into Monday morning from Tropical Storm Amilda that left communities flooded and motorists battling waterlogged roads on the island of Abaco. In some areas, cleanup duties were already underway by the Royal Bahamas Defense Force to assist with tree chopping, and local companies seen even pumping drains. Residents of the Dundastown community says the amount of flooding left behind by a tropical storm leaves them questioning the functionalities of the drainage system in area.
Yes, it concerns me. Every time it rains, either the roads get flooded, and I don't think it's good for vehicles.
I feel like there should be more drainage so that this could be avoided.
With heavy rainfall pounding down on the Dundastown community overnight, leaving residents struggling to get to their homes and vehicles fighting to get through waters, take a look at this. Residents say that they are lucky that the water narrowly escaped their front doors.
We thought the water was coming inside, but it's still not too far from the inside.
So this is the worst I've ever seen it since I've been here.
As the excessive rain and wind began to pass, Eyewitness News visited communities across Abaco where local officials warned residents to evacuate due to weather conditions. And with weather experts forecasting the storm surge raising water levels 1 to 3 feet above normal tide along the coast, a mother speaking to reporters from the inside of her home with her almost 1-year-old baby says she knew what damage the system could possibly bring, so it left her with one option: to flee.
I evacuated to a family member's house simply because I knew that the flooding would have happened and I just wanted to be safe.
Now, of course, as you see that flooding, it's not just in Abaco, it's here as well. So as a result, Prime Minister Davis announced that the majority of schools will reopen tomorrow, with a few exceptions. There's still those areas are being impacted by localized flooding. And so here is a list of those schools.
In New Providence, Sanders Primary, Sadie Curtis Primary, Clyde Primary, Judith Thompson Primary, Buttonwood Preschool, Coconut Grove Preschool, Sybil Strawn Primary, Gerald Cash Primary, Stephen Dillett Primary, Williamstown Primary, Central Abaco Primary, Moss Island School, and Cooperstown Preschool. We want to express our appreciation to the cooperation of parents, guardians, and staff as we continue to prioritize the safety and well-being of our school communities. Further updates will be provided as conditions improve by the Ministry of Education and Vocational Teaching. And further later tonight, if there are any new developments in respect to schools not mentioned or schools mentioned.
And so, you heard the complaints coming out of, and we have more images to share with you as well, by the way, after the break. But you heard those complaints coming from Abaco, the people saying what's going on with the drainage and what they feel the solution is. Well, when we come back, and after I share some more images with you, you will see, we will talk about the fact that the zoning of Nassau, the fact that Nassau is going to take some decades to catch up to where things need to be in terms of zoning and drainage and all the rest of it. Because after all, we just allowed Nassau to happen, right? You just think about that. It just kind of happened. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
The Bahamas is the premier destination for fly fishing because of its unique geography.
We've got the third largest barrier reef in the world in the Bahamas.
We have the largest aggregation of mangroves in the Western Hemisphere.
Which simply means we've got the largest marine biodiversity than anywhere else in the world.
I am unapologetic about Bahamians being owners in our #1 industry.
We should not just say it, we should have it enacted into certain policies.
The Bahamas Fly Fishing Industry Association was instrumental in the 2017 sports fishing legislation. Anyone fishing in the Bahamas who's going to be guiding has to be certified and licensed, and thirdly, they have to be a Bahamian.
And that is historic in that a model of conservation and a model for Bahamianization has been legislated, the only one in the country.
But it also gives Bahamians the opportunity with a sense of pride to know that at the end of the day, I'm contributing to the development of my country and something they can pass on for generations.
The Out Island of Bahamas, there are no other alternative industry that generates the kind of revenue that fly fishing does. The entire community benefits.
I would always encourage the tourists, people who want to fish, hire a local guide.
The guides in the Bahamas are some of the best trained fly fishing guides in the world. You know it because you see the results in terms of the kinds of fishing they're doing. They're catching the largest bonefish, the largest tarpon, largest permit. That is unique. So this is the lure to all the anglers internationally coming who thinks of the Bahamas as #1 destination for fly fishing in saltwater.
I'm really excited about this initiative that SPTC has brought forth for the fishermen.
If you have great guides and terrible boats and engines and nothing working and all this, you could be the best in the world. And people still have a terrible experience because they could not have a good day on the water.
I think one of the greatest things is to have access to quality capital, but not only having access to the capital, but terms and conditions related to the capital, so we encourage growth and expansion of the industry and professionalism within the industry because of the resources being at hand and having proper guidance.
It'll be a greater impact and they'll have a better experience.
And I foresee it being an opportunity that the guys are taking advantage of in terms of the opportunities for education, awareness, and resources. You always need to advise people, inform them, and then equip them. And so I think this process is essential because it allows those skill sets that are needed in a changing economy and environment, how they could then keep up with operating their small business.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. 1 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
So Justin, let's show some of these other images we got in. They show flooding in portions of Killarney, Camp Road. I spoke with Killarney MP Dr. Hubert Minnis today. He mentioned that the flooding there, and if you all saw the flooding in portions of Killarney, it looks like a lake. Well, in fact, that's what he said. A lot of Killarney, there it is, there's an image, was lakes, in fact, and just filled, right, and wetlands, he said, exactly. And because they've been filled in, this is what we got in from a resident, because they've been filled, because the wetlands removed, there was, when I don't even know, because this was just, this here is Camp Road. That right there, this other thing. I saw this video floating about, and I think independent Andrew Blue Johnson was walking that neighborhood, and there too, look at it, again, Camp Road, a lot of flooding. In fact, some people are held up in their homes because they cannot get out because of the flooding. And so, Leslie and Garth, this is where I want to come in. This is what I want to talk about. Let's look at the challenges that make up Nassau. Nassau has not been properly zoned, we know that. Or even in many instances, look, for example, like Camp Road, build according to new construction demands for an island that's prone to flooding. And we have heard the different stories about the island water sort of coming on land now, and portions of the islands disappearing. Look, well, this is Abaco today, by the way, you all. That right there is Abaco, yes. Abaco, absolutely. Abaco, and that's the road he's driving on. That would be the road.
The swamp.
Mm-hmm. And Abaco still is better laid out than Nassau. So let's just talk about, and we heard the row from many residents of Abaco in Linton's report, but let's just talk about Nassau. We saw two areas that we focused in on just now, Killarney, Camp Road. What is the answer, do you think? Because to go and try remake these areas and reconfigure them, like proper drainage, proper construction, building up, it is a lot that must happen.
Hell of a lot of money.
The villain here tonight, Bahamas, is greed. And I say greed because when you look at the inner city, like you said, there's no proper zoning, but the appreciation in terms of dredging, in terms of excavation, looking for what we call in the Bahamas curry or quarry.
Mm-hmm.
We will dredge and excavate to the point where it goes almost below the flood line.
Oh, yeah.
All the high hills, as the Bible says, you're mowing down and making it into dung hills. Listen to me very carefully. We need people who are educated, who understand what it means to live in an archipelago where we are living on islands. The sediment that makes land is easily eroded based on the amount of water that we are surrounded by. If you have water coming from beneath, you have water coming from above, you tell me the word would then be erosion. If we're going to allow ourselves to be eroded away based on monetary gain, this is now the result. We have to find new ways, new methods of building foundations that are high enough. We need to stop building in flooded areas and ponds and lakes. Let me say this to you right in Golden Isles constituency. We have a new development that was built on swamp land. In order to build on swamp land, you have to find the quarry, the curry, to fill it in, to bring the foundation up to level where water will not enter your house during torrential rainfalls. And so we are actually fighting against ourselves in the name of housing. We as the Bajan people have no more room left for housing. We need not to have any more excavation on this particular island. We are now going to allow ourselves to be sunk. Pray to God. No tsunami, no tidal waves, no big time 5 category hurricanes in this country. We can't take it any longer. We got to find a way, Shanique Miller, to build barrier walls as they did in New Orleans. I don't know if you all remember the hurricane there.
Yeah.
They have actually barriers that prevent flooding from coming and taking the island over. If we continue, we're going to have to do exactly what New Orleans has done to protect our people.
One of the main problems we have is that our infrastructural position right now with regard to roads. Give an example. Look at Harrod Road and look at the new roads that Cataloni built.
Yes.
Remember Ingham was there about 25 years ago. You don't get no rain because you have proper drainage. But the cost associated with it was done properly. In these over-the-hill areas, you can't do it anymore.
No, you can't.
Because the house is in the road.
Right on the road.
It's only 4 foot
right
from your
on
road.
the road. What can you do?
You know, and as I go through those areas, you know, you see the blight and what people tolerate. And God bless the rains when they come, because you just can't make it. We have to find a way, and our water table is getting higher because of the amount of water, the rain that saturates the soil, you know, and it's a terrible problem. I was told today by someone to talk about Long Island, and 2-3 guys I just left my office, and they said that the sand situation with the salt is so bad on Long Island that the bird habitats are now disappearing.
Wow.
Because every place is salty. That company has just been sold, by the way, to a group in Grand Bahama, Freeport, with some connections here, New Providence, I'm told. But there's so much things that we need to do to help those who are downtrodden, the less fortunate in those over-the-hill areas.
So we got to stop talking about it, Mr. Miller.
Something got to happen. I mean, just think of Pinewood tonight. Those people got to buy new furniture again. You know, God bless them. I mean, something has to be done. I think the government's looking at putting a little lake or something in the middle of it.
To drain off, huh?
To drain off.
But you've been talking about that for 20 years.
But that really should have been the responsibility of developing.
We talked about that last week. Who should bear the cost?
And what I like about Beyond the Headlines tonight, Shanique Bill, I'm going to challenge you, which I probably shouldn't as a guest, but you bring these things to light, and I do know that people from all over the world, they're listening, especially Bahamians who are abroad, who are educated. Maybe these ideas now need to come back home, because definitely as I look around the landscape, we're definitely in need of those ideas and solutions. And so I just want to thank you for bringing it to our attention tonight, Shanique Miller. And you look lovely, by the way, looking over there. I like your little outfit. It makes us all feel like the sun is out and it's going to be a better day tomorrow.
I was happy when I saw, and that's exactly what it's
You and Debbie coming here with a golden hair, boy, I tell you.
Debbie came in. I was happy to see Debbie in white as well.
That's the brightest moment, I think, for our weekend.
It's a sign and a message of hope.
Yes,
and that tomorrow is always a better day.
Yes,
and this is what I want to say, Bahamas, let's just lift up, because I tell you, everybody just feels so heavy. Even people in the United States, reached out and just say it. And again, the family is grateful for all of your love and your outpouring. But let's just hold our heads up high to the rising sun. Yes. And that rising sun, of course, also is Jesus Christ. I mean, just worshiping what He created, worshiping Him. Let's focus on that, man. Let's just grab our hope from that and continue moving forward. It's important that we do that. I want to share this just before we wrap up tonight. If we can just get there. Go ahead, Leslie, what you said?
We had 3 untimely deaths in our country over the weekend. 4 untimely deaths. Just want to give sympathy to those families that lost their loved ones. The gentleman in Freeport, gentleman I grew up with, lived around the Fort Hill, and the Union gentleman who died, Charles Carter brother, who died suddenly. Death is always around the corner waiting for us. And of course, my brother and friend, I'm going to miss him, Vaughn. Miller, so much, love him as a brother. But God is still there. When we go through all our trials and tribulations, remember there's a God, and He can never let us down. So we got to keep praying and keep believing that there's a spiritual one who's guiding all of our tracks as we walk through this place called it, and as we walk through this place called life. That trials and tribulations may come, but we still have a God who's going to take us to where we need to go. I just want to thank Him for giving us another day to live.
Absolutely, Leslie. And I really was trying to lift the show, because again, it's important always to wrap up with hope. And so that's why I did that little spiel before I went into this. I always, it's important to do that, impart hope to everybody there who's watching, and to understand that, So, meanwhile, the Ministry of Works stepped into action today to address the flooding concerns in various areas. Officials say teams have been on the ground since this morning, responding to reports of flooding. Francis Clark, Senior Civil Engineer for Road Maintenance and Construction, says that the crews are working to clear blocked roadways and restore access.
We have become aware that the flooding inland is severe, and a lot of our drains are covered and inundated with water, and so we cannot deploy our pumps inland at the moment. So what we are doing now is putting our pumps near the coastal roads, and the strategy is to discharge water from these coastal roads into the sea and then work our way inland. By the time we get most of the coastal roads cleared, then some of the water would recede naturally into the aquifer and expose the wells, and then we can pump the water from the flooded areas into the wells. Yes, the ministry will be responsible for clearing debris off the road, and those debris would include any tree limbs or any deleterious materials that we find on the road. However, with respect to any power lines or utility lines, we refer that to DRM, so they can contact the relevant authorities, utility authorities, to de-energize and carry out any repairs and make it safe. before we go in there and trim any trees.
And of course, while down power lines remain under the jurisdiction of the Disaster Risk Management Authority, the Ministry of Works has also chipped in to assist. And so, again, they are surveying the debris and infrastructural threats. Leslie, you said a number of trees also.
A lot of trees are down.
And here in Newport, and perhaps that's why there are spots of power outage around the island because of fallen trees. And so, the ministry would like to hear from you. If you see anything that needs repairing, even flooding issues, you can contact the Ministry of Works at 302-9700 or 376-0936. 376-0936. You can also send your location and pictures to their WhatsApp line 557-3227, 557-3227, and they will get right on it. And so again, excellent. And so you participate, get that information out there, and let's hurry get things back to normal. I thank you so much. Of course, at the top of tonight's show, Debbie Bartlett and Garth, you joined in with her. And then here, Leslie Miller and Garth Rosborough, thank you all so much. And a big thank you to all of you for tuning in this evening. It's certainly been a pleasure having you here. I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a blessed evening, everyone.